Welcome to the Two Money Guys podcast. I am Robert, the middle-aged money man, along with Michael, your money geek, and John with the beard. We have another incredible show for you this week. We have Ty from EatTheDead.com, a horrifically great site where she shares gruesome recipes that are works of art. She has also written episodes for Z Nation, did costume design for a couple of the Sharknado films, and has done prop designs for many horror films. Speaking of gruesome, we all recently watched a flick by the Asylum entitled Zombies. So we'll share our opinions of that movie with you. And we just might possibly have an announcement or two about some upcoming segments. Who knows? We'll get into all that and more, but first, let's roll that intro. All right, Michael and John, we are going to talk about some horrific and gruesome things on the show today. I mean, we're going to get into some blood and guts. But you know what shouldn't make you feel like you're in a horror film? And that's purchasing life insurance. And that's why we work with the incredible people at the JRC Insurance Group. And as you know, you've heard us talk about JRC now. JRC works with over 50 top-rated insurance companies to match their clients with the most affordable life insurance options possible. They're working harder than anyone to get you the coverage you need and deserve for the price that suits your budget. Call 866-790-6494 or visit jrcinsurancegroup.com for your free no-obligation quote. Again, that's 866-790-6494 or visit jrcinsurancegroup.com for your free no-obligation quote. Now let's introduce Ty to the show. She runs one of the greatest websites I've ever seen over at EatTheDead.com. I mean, I just kept scrolling and scrolling through these recipes because, I mean, not only, they don't even look like you can eat them. I mean, they're like incredible works of art. So welcome, Ty, to the show today. How are you?
Well, thank you. I'm very good. How about you?
We're doing awesome. I'm going to speak for everybody. We're doing awesome.
Good.
I can speak for myself when I say I'm absolutely blown away by the recipes and what you like to call on your site, the noms that you create. And I just, for my purposes, how in the world did you even begin to dream some of these things up? I mean, these do literally look like they've come off movie sets.
Well, thanks. Actually,
but you can eat them, right?
Yeah, no, everything. Well, I shouldn't say everything on the site is edible because we have a mixture of both recipes as well as DIY crafts. I mean, I guess technically if you want to chew on some of the DIYs, you can, but yeah, no, they actually started out as a result of being on a movie set. So it's kind of a perfect marriage of practical effects and delicious food. So
yeah, it's great. So yes, you do have your DIY crafts. Yeah, I should say that. Not everything's edible.
Almost everything. Well, I guess everything is edible once. It's just whether or not you want to actually keep eating it.
I think my personal favorite is the denture Jello mold.
Yeah.
Because you look at that, and you're like, what do I even do with it?
Well.
And I showed my wife the toe on a stick, and you know, she was like, why would I even want that? And I'm like, well, it's just cool looking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, what would you think if you came to one of my parties, John and Michael, and I had like toes on a stick? You know, would you even like? I think it would be awesome. Yeah, I think I'm going to have a party with toes on a stick.
Yeah, you know how to do it.
I'm submitting my RSVP right now. Just save me 3. I'm okay. I want a pinky toe. I want a big toe. And I want one of those long secondary toes. And I'll be fine. I promise. I'm good.
There you go. Perfect. Yeah, no, those were actually inspired by the movie Hocus Pocus. A lot of the recipes on the site are horror inspired, of course, and that includes some crossovers to different feature films and television shows. There's a Michael Myers cake from Halloween. I did a partnership for Shudder TV, and we did a Tooth Child, it was a Tooth Child from their Channel Zero show. So there's a lot of kind of interesting things mixed in there that I'm sure at first glance people are like, what the hell is wrong with this girl? And then you read it and you're like, oh, okay, I get it. That's the dead man's toe from the scene in Hocus Pocus. So yeah. And then they still think, what the hell's wrong with you? But at least they've got context.
The Tooth Child, I'm not going to lie, that was my favorite. When I first actually went to the site, I was like, oh, that stuck out to me because I am a Reddit user, so I remember the creepypasta story. So to see it actually come to life, so to see it actually come to life in a, I guess I'll say an edible arrangement. I'm impressed. I really am taken aback by these pictures and the way you did it. Like it's awesome.
Thank you.
It's creepy.
Oh, it's a lot of fun.
It's creepily delicious. That's what it is. Creepily delicious.
Yes.
Creepily delicious. That is a new marketing term. Creepily delicious.
Hey, you can take that one from me. Go ahead.
I'm
give me
banking
credit.
it.
That's all
I'm banking that one.
So why don't you? And prominently on the site, and I have to admit, I always read about pages because that's what we do here. But your dog is awesome.
That's Lucifer, Lord of Barkness.
Lucifer, the Lord of Barkness, has to be one of my favorite dogs at this point. And if you have to go to eatthedead.com and go to the about page and look at Lucifer, the Lord of Barkness, because this dog is just. What'd you say? It's 9. He's 9 pounds of what?
Raw
he's
fury.
Like raw fury. Those little dogs can definitely be hellhounds for sure.
Oh my goodness! I think he has like sunglasses or goggles on in that picture, and his hair is so wild. But I can definitely see. Yeah, I can definitely see him as your dog and him as inspiration.
She. I should correct you right now.
Oh, she. I'm sorry.
Okay, we call her Lucy for short. How much time do we have in this interview? Because I could spend the entire time talking about this dog. She is awesome. She's actually the brains behind the entire operation. I'm just her loyal minion who does nothing but live my life in order to properly serve her needs and wants. So
you have to serve the Lord of Darkness. It makes sense.
She is. She's a landowner, believe it or not. She actually owns a little piece of Hell, Michigan. So yes.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a Hell, Michigan first off. And now that I know that a dog.
There is, and it freezes over often.
That's great. That's great.
Well, somehow I would think nothing less, Well, let's get in. I mean, the site is great and the recipes are great. And we're going to get into that a little bit, but you also have some other credits to your name. I mean, you have written at least one episode. I don't know if there's more episodes of Z Nation.
Just one, unfortunately.
Just one episode of Z Nation. You have some design credits for Sharknado films, right? And so your background's in prop design. So, I mean, that's where you get a lot of these designs from for the recipes and the DIY. So, I mean, as you call it, you've done some blood slinging behind the scenes or in front of the scenes, I guess, for the scenes of some horror films. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
I've been very lucky. My entire life, I wanted to work in film and television, and I got the opportunity really while I was still in college. I got to work on the Steven Seagal Patriot, not the Heath Ledger Patriot, but the Steven Seagal one. And that was great because it gave me an opportunity to see what being on a film set was like. And I just realized this is all I really want to do. And started working my way up through the ranks in the industry. Started as a PA and got really lucky. Got to work on a bunch of great low budget horror films. And for anybody who wants to get into the film industry, the fastest way to get a film education is to work on low budget, because you'll end up kind of doing a little bit of everything. As an AD, I worked as a PA, I worked in props, I worked in costuming, done literally just about everything. And then started working with the Asylum. And that was, again, an awesome, amazing opportunity to really be able to try just about every department. And one of the departments that I found that I had the most fun in was the props department, and worked on, what did I work on with them in the props department? Hansel versus Gretel, which is a sequel to Hansel and Gretel. And we did that one. And then I did another one called, I think it was 28 Days. Which was a post-apocalyptic disaster movie. Of course, Sharknado's worked on 3 of the 5. I did 2, 3, and 5. And I guess maybe a little bit of 6. So lots and lots of time working on sets. And I've done some big name productions as well. I worked Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Rush Hour 2, The Ring 2, lots of sequels. So yeah, a lot of background in film and television, and then TV. Did The Shield, did Sons of Anarchy, did Seventh Heaven, lots and lots. So
great. I mean, I'm a huge Sons of Anarchy fan. My wife and I are huge Sons of Anarchy fans, and I'd probably say I've seen most of those titles. So 28 Days, I've definitely seen. Hansel versus Gretel, I think I've seen some of. I didn't I don't think I've seen the whole
The
thing.
Shield, actually, for me, that was one of my favorite shows. I love The Shield.
I loved
nostalgia.
That show. I loved watching it. I loved working on it. The cast was amazing. The crew was amazing. You know, they say every once in a while you kind of hit a show where you become family, and that was it. That show, that was a sad day when we wrapped up that show. That was a good experience.
That show holds a special place in my heart. I started it late. I knew and that's the first time I actually found out who Michael Chiklis was. When I started watching it, I was like, "Oh, this is the greatest show I've ever seen in my life." It was awesome.
He is a genuinely nice guy.
Twist, oh my gosh!
Yeah,
I believe it.
Yep, genuinely nice. The entire cast and crew were just genuinely good people. It was a hard show. I mean, because we were doing brutal shoots out in really rough areas, and handling some pretty serious stuff. But boy, I mean, you'd come down at the end of the night, and you knew these were the people you'd go grab a beer with and kind of unload on, and they were great. It was such a good group.
What did you do on that series? What was your role in that series? I actually
started out as a trainee. I was a Directors Guild of America trainee, which is a program that you can go through in 400 days, and they get you jobs. And then when you graduate, you're a member of the DGA as an AD. And so I graduated, and they said, "Hey, we had a pretty good time with you as a trainee. You want to try it as a real AD?" And I said, sure. So I ended up with them for 2.5 years almost total. Not quite as creative as working as a costumer or props, but still just as important job. A lot of paperwork. Really good at paperwork.
Hey, things need to get done. People need to do them.
I have a lot of respect for ADs. It is not a job I enjoy doing, but I have nothing but respect for people who do it and do it well. It's a critical job in the industry, and hats off to the people who do it and do it every day.
So what was it like working with the Asylum, and how did that compare to working on the Shield?
The Shield. So it's a little harder to compare because the Shield was a TV show, and the Asylum we shot, well, I guess you could say, because the Asylum we did the Z Nation TV shows. The Asylum is a little bit like guerrilla filmmaking. I mean, with a normal, I don't want to say normal, with a larger budget production, say like, okay, let's compare Rush Hour 2. When we did Rush Hour 2, we spent 6 months working on a film, and that included, prep and getting everything ready and shooting, and your days were long, but they weren't insane. With the Asylum, you get like 2 months to cram 6 months worth of work in. And so it is a lot faster. And there's a lot more pressure to get things done quickly and to do it right as fast as possible, so you don't have to keep spending time on it. But at the same time, there's a certain level of energy that comes along with that kind of pressure that you really don't get on a big set. It's just two very different styles of filmmaking, and not one is better than the other. Not one is more quote unquote professional or unprofessional. It's just different ways of getting things done. And in some ways, it's a lot of fun to work a lot faster. You learn really quickly how to make things work as fast as possible. So I really like both styles. I don't know. Am I answering your question right?
I don't know. I never worked in the industry, so I would just have to take your word for it. You could tell us anything, and we just have to be like, that's we imagine that is what that's like. Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah, I enjoy both styles, to be honest. I mean, you get tired. It's a little bit like childbirth. I'm sure all three of you guys can directly relate to this analogy, so I'm sorry. But yeah, you go through, both of them are very intense situations. It's like having multiple children, and you get all done with it. And, as you're going through it, you're like, I never want to do this again. This is the stupidest thing I ever agreed to do. I can't believe I'm doing this. And then you get done and you step back and you look at this amazing thing that you created, and you're like, God, that was incredible. Let's do that again. So that's filmmaking in a nutshell from all angles, low budget and bigger picture.
Yeah, I'm sure there is a sense of accomplishment when you're done. I mean, you can actually see the fruits of what you've done on film. Regardless of if it's a TV show or a movie. I mean, regardless of what your role is, whether you had, set design or you were an AD or whatever you were, you had some part in that production. And it must feel good to know that you had some small or big part in that production, and it got done.
And filmmaking is such a collaborative effort. And so much these days is about the individual, and I am, a person by myself, and I've accomplished all this on my own. But when you get into the film industry, you kind of have to take that ego and check it at the door, because it really is a team effort. And there's something kind of magical about getting all of those hours behind you and all of the stress or the excitement or, whatever and this and that. And you're all sitting in a movie theater together in the dark watching this big premiere. and it all comes together, and it's just kind of magical, you know? You all look at this work you've done, and there is, you know, points where you look at something and you're like, I did that, or I did this, or, you know, but then you look at the thing overall and you're like, well, I did do that, but it wouldn't have looked as good if this hadn't been done by this other guy, or, you know, this other team hadn't put this together. So it's definitely an all of this in it together kind of thing.
I always wondered that, you know, you do have individual parts. So you see during the making of a movie or a TV show, you see these little sections being done. I can't imagine what that's like when you see these things done in little sections and then all of a sudden you get to see the finished product. I mean, is it like night and day? I mean, can you almost imagine from the little sections what it's going to be like when it's done? Or when you see a finished product, is it just, yeah, I knew it was going to look like that? Or, you know, is it like, just like you said, it's almost like magical. I mean, it's like, oh, this came together. And it's unbelievable. It's not what I thought it was going to be at all.
It's totally magical. I mean, when you're shooting a project, you don't shoot it in a linear order 99% of the time. You're shooting it out of order based on the availability of the locations, based on the availability of the actors. I mean, so when you're shooting something, say like we're shooting someplace downtown in Los Angeles, and the police department says, okay, you can have it for 3 days. And then we have, you know, another part of the script where we got to shoot in, say, like Calabasas. And they say, okay, you have that for 2 days. But our script covers, you know, multiple periods in time. But what we do is we go through and we pull out, okay, everything we need to shoot in downtown LA, we're going to shoot over those 3 days, even though it takes part across the script. And so you're shooting this whole hodgepodge, mishmash, kind of out of order. And so it's like you have a character who's, you know, day 1, day 2, and day 5 in the script in Los Angeles. So we shoot those right there in LA. And then we go to Calabasas and we shoot days 2, 7, and 9. And you're sitting there and you're changing the wardrobe of the characters, and you're changing how they look, and you're changing this and that. And you're kind of jumping back and forth in time. And from a kind of outside viewpoint looking in, I can see somebody going, what the heck is going on? This makes absolutely no sense. And then you get it all done and you hand it off to the editor, and the editor untangles all of this mismatch and restrings it so that it's completely linear and it makes so much sense. And so when you're shooting it, there can be days when you're like, what day are we shooting? What scene is this? I'm kind of confused, but you just kind of go with it because you've got the director who has the overall vision, and you have the ADs who are keeping everything on track, and they're keeping everything straight, which is, again, why I have nothing but respect for these guys and why I'm like, yeah, no, I can't do that job forever. And then you give everything, you know, over to the editors, and the editor and the director sit down and they pull this absolute rat nest of chaos and confusion into this coherent story. And it's amazing. I mean, it's a little bit like taking spaghetti and braiding it into something absolutely gorgeous. I mean, you're just like, wow, okay, now that makes sense.
I would like to thank our sponsor, JRC Insurance Group. JRC works with over 50 top-rated insurance companies to match their clients with the most affordable life insurance options available. They are working harder than anyone to get you the coverage you need and deserve for the price that suits your budget. Call 866-790-6494 or visit jrcinsurancegroup.com for your free, no-obligation quote. Again, call 866-790-6494 or visit jrcinsurancegroup.com for your free, no-obligation quote. I'm going to take a little tangent, but you know, it seems like you've worked with so many interesting projects with so many interesting people. And I'm sure you've been asked this before, but what is one of the most, I'm not going to say outrageous, but what is one of the most interesting things that you've seen or has happened, you know, during one of your projects?
Well, when we were shooting Sharknado 3 down in Florida, they actually shut down Universal Studios in the evenings and basically turned the park over to us and said, all right, you know, shoot what you need to shoot while the guests are gone. And so we had the run of the park to ourselves at night in the dark, which was pretty awesome. You know, there's kind of this behind the scenes magic that you get to see what the park looks like when there's nobody else there. And you've got, this park representative who's walking through with you at night and saying, okay, it's kind of like, how they do the tours, but it's like the best tour you've ever gotten because there's nobody else there and it's just you and the crew. And then you've got this park representative who's like, okay, yeah, so over here, this is where we did this, and over there, that's where they did that. And, you get this kind of behind the scenes view of everything. And then I had Lucifer with me actually on that movie. She came with me, and she's black. So it's easy to lose her in the park at night. And because we were there after night and there were no guests, we didn't have to have her on a leash. And so we went out, and I stopped at a store one night when I was getting stuff. So I was working on the costumes on that show. And I bought a bunch of blinking bike lights. And we wrapped her harness in bike lights so that you wouldn't lose her while we were out there running around. And so you'd be out there at night, and it's pitch black, except for, a few little lights here and there where we were shooting. And I'd look around and I'd say, well, where's Lucy? You'd call to her, and you just hear this jingling of her tags. And then you'd see these bouncing lights just coming at you at 90 miles an hour. And it was kind of surreal to be sitting in Universal Studios with all of the rides shut off and my dog coming running at me with these blinking red lights. So it's kind of fun. You get to see things when you're in the industry that people don't normally get to see, which is kind of fun. And in fact, on the same movie, we brought her into the Natural Museum. The Natural History Museum in Los Angeles. And she was there as well. She goes everywhere. The dog, she's, like I said, she's the brains of the operation. She gets invited places. I'm just her driver. And ended up taking her with us to the Natural History Museum. And I have a photo of her sitting next to the dinosaur bones. And the security guard came up and he said, all right, here's the thing. He said, if any of those bones turn up missing, you're my first suspect. So it was fun.
That's funny.
It's like you're almost accepted into places and into situations that you normally would not be, even
well,
thought about.
It's kind of fun, you tell people, I'm working with the film crew, and they're like, all right, do whatever you want. It's kind of like, oh, yeah. I mean, really, if you want to get in.
Do whatever you want. Here's your pass.
If you want to get into places, all you really need is a clipboard, a walkie-talkie, and a headset, and just tell people you're with the crew. And people are like, okay, do whatever you want. That's fine.
All right, I'm going to take that advice, and I'm going to try that at Six Flags here when it opens back up. And
if you need to get bailed out, you just give me a call. I'll come down and help you.
I will. I got you.
You're setting your sights high with Six Flags. You know that. I mean,
I know. I didn't want to
right to the top.
Far. I'd rather if I was to get arrested, I'd rather be here so I can go home afterwards versus being in Florida. Disney would have been a very very high site for me.
No, I think Universal Studios is probably your best bet. They've been really open and receptive to obviously because especially when you come to Los Angeles, the Universal Studios there is adjacent to the movie lot, so it's a little easier to get away with it. I mean, when I was working on the ring too. We used to wear our headsets and our walkies at lunch and jump the line that divides the park from the theme or from the movie studio and run around in the theme park during lunch. And you could always come in with your headset on and we would go to the Mummy ride and the guy would say, oh, you're with the crew. And we're like, yeah. And he's like, all right, quick, jump on, head of the line so we can get you guys through. And so we would ride the ride a couple times at lunch. So yeah, the headset really definitely gets you some privileges.
So I feel like I made the wrong career choice then.
Yeah, I was going to say, I need to rethink my profession.
I need to rethink my profession all the way.
Send it on over.
Sorry, let me send you my resume. I will give
Yeah, we're good.
I got you. I need yeah. Wow. That's awesome.
Oh boy. Well, speaking of the Asylum and horror movies, did you happen to watch Zombies?
I would like to say Zombies is one of those movies that you watch it and I don't know if you actually end up watching it entirely the first time. It's a movie that takes multiple viewings because you miss so many of the little things inside there as you go. How many times have you watched it?
I like how you said the first time. Oh my God, that's funny.
Yeah. I think we all caught it recently and because we love the Asylum and
awesome
we caught it recently and I enjoyed it. I mean, I have to say that I laughed through most of that movie.
It is definitely a movie that you enjoy. You go into it with the right.
It's a campy movie. You go in with an open mind, and it is just an enjoyable movie. I mean, you can't go in there thinking it's going to be a slasher film, but it is. It's definitely one you can watch and enjoy yourself, and it's great. John and I were talking about it before the show, and it's just, we were just going over over our favorite parts, and we were just laughing. I mean, it was just great. I mean, and that's what they want you to do. I mean, it's a campy horror film. And if nobody knows what it's about, Zombies basically is where a virus takes over a zoo and the animals become basically zombies. And I'm not going to ruin it for anybody because we want you to go out and get the movie and view it. But what do you think? Just to give a little bit of an idea about it, John, what do you think? What was your opinion on it?
I loved it. I think that it should have been rated 5 out of 5 stars. I think that Rotten Tomatoes should have given it 100 versus what they gave it before. I don't want to reveal what they gave it, but I like Robert said, I could not stop laughing. And I love horror movies, and I'm a person. I've watched horror movies before and laughed through them. I guess I'm kind of cynical like that. I don't know if that makes me weird or not, but I just laugh at how, okay, things happen. Okay, this person just entered this door that shouldn't have done that. Okay, now here's something coming down that chopped their head off, right? That makes me laugh. And I know that's weird, but with this movie, I could not stop laughing at just the various things that happened. I think one of my favorite parts was near the beginning, when the security guards went to go investigate. I don't want to get too much away, but then the guy, one security guard sees a body there that clearly has been there for a while, and then looks back and says, "Oh my gosh, she's dead." And I couldn't stop laughing. I'm like, obviously, but it was just a really, really entertaining movie. Really, I had a really good time watching it. And like you said, you need to watch it multiple times. Now that you said that, I'm definitely going to go back and watch it again, because I know that there's some parts that I missed, but I was so taken aback at how great this movie was. Even with the I like the gruesomeness of it too. It wasn't like, okay, let's just do some, campy stuff, do this, that, and the other. It was actually gruesome to where I actually jumped back a couple of times. I was like, oh wow, I didn't expect it to be that gruesome. But with Asylum films, I mean, it makes sense, right? So I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, right in the beginning when in the first death scene, it got gruesome, and then you knew from there on it wasn't going to be just, okay, we're going to cut away from the blood and gore,
right?
But yeah, it's gruesome. It's a horror film with animals, but which I think is a pretty cool take on it. And it's like you said, I think people just kind of see it and they look at the title and they're like, oh, whatever. But it actually has a pretty good premise to it, and it actually flows pretty good throughout.
Right.
But like I said, it's made to be campy. It's Asylum, Sharknado. It's, you know what I mean? It's they make campy films. They make films you can sit there and just enjoy. And that's what I love about them. I mean, it's just like, yeah, I sat there and watched it on a Saturday, and I just watched it, and I had fun, and I laughed, and I smiled. And I was like, oh yeah. Oh, and every once in a while, you're right. You sit there and you go, oh man, that was gross. But yeah, I mean, is anybody going to get an Oscar from it? No, probably not. But it's still a great movie. All in all, a great movie.
I think that's what the Asylum gets right. Especially too, like a lot of their zombie movies and everything. There's a little bit of gore, there's a little bit of violence, but it's not too much. So you can, if you have some older children and adults and everything, you can all sit around and watch it, and it's just not too. It's not overly. It's not overly violent or anything. It's something everybody can just kind of sit around and enjoy.
Well, and one of the best things about the Asylum is that they definitely don't take themselves too seriously. And you see bad B movies. I mean, I know we've all stumbled across a bad B movie where you're just watching it and you're like, all right, I am literally getting stupider by the minute as I watch this movie. And then there are the B movies that are so bad that they're good. And I would definitely put the Asylum in the so bad it's good category, because they know what they're making. They have mastered their ability to take this genre and just run with it. And that's what makes these so much fun. And you can't take it seriously because they're not taking it seriously. And I think that's where you have so much fun with these projects when you're watching them as well as working on them, because you're just going through it and you're like, okay, this is ridiculous. We are going to ride elephants out of here. And it's a little bit like, we used to joke around. We're like, okay, how does the Asylum come up with their movie ideas? I bet they've got 2 buckets. One contains a weather phenomenon or disaster, and the other contains characters. And, they just randomly reach into one and they pull one out, and they reach into the other and they pull that out. And they're like, okay, sharks and tornadoes. How about a Sharknado? Zombies and zoo animals. Okay, zombies. And you get that watching these as well. I mean, they're serious. They're taking it serious professionally, but at the same time, it's all tongue in cheek, and I think that's what makes them so much fun.
I think you nailed it on the head. I mean, because basically they know they're hitting every B film cliche that they can possibly hit in these movies, but they're doing it on purpose, and it's for entertainment value, and it's great because you're taking it seriously, but you're laughing at it because they're doing it on purpose. I mean, you can tell a B movie that's trying to not be a B movie, and then you can tell a B movie that they know they're a B movie, and that's what they do, and they're good at it. I mean, you're exactly right.
And the writer,
and that's
Scotty
the difference.
Mullen, he and I go back. We worked on a number of movies together. In fact, I worked on his very first produced feature film, which was, oh my gosh, I'm showing my age, The Co-Ed and the Zombie Stoner. And he's gone through and done several others. In fact, he wrote one of the Sharknado films, and then he was also, the writer of the Zombies and the coming out sequel to Zombies, by the way. And Scotty is just, I mean, he is the embodiment of all of these movies he writes. He's over the top, he's funny, he's quick, he's witty, he's sharp. I mean, and to see his personality come out in these scripts, and then later on as they get produced into these movies, it's so much fun. And I mean, and that's what the Asylum does, is they pull these kind of larger than life characters and says, all right, what can you do for us? And Scotty says, I could write. And you see that person kind of come through. And same with Glenn. I mean, the guy who directed it, Glenn Miller, he's a little over the top and larger than life as well. And I think that's what makes these projects work, is because they take these guys who are kind of the embodiment of the projects themselves and then say, okay, let's see what you can do. And you end up with Zombies or Sharknado. And it's just fun.
Yeah, and they definitely have some great talent. You see that, I watch a ton of, I hate the term actually B movies, because I feel like it's diminishes, movies, but I love indie movies, or, these kind of like lower budget movies, like on Netflix and everything. I love watching them. And, a lot of them, you watch, like, the writing really isn't that good, or the acting really isn't that good. But everyone that the Asylum brings on the projects, they're all really talented people that, the acting's really good. They're all giving it their A game. Like it might not be, Grammy winning performances and everything, but it's all good. The writing's good. On a lot of the things, I actually find that a lot of the scripts and the writing and stuff is better than a lot of these, big budget, blockbuster films.
Well, there's something to be said for giving people a chance, and the Asylum has definitely got I'm not gonna blow smoke up anybody's tailpipe and say that the Asylum is the best studio out there, because it's got its share of problems, but every studio has. And I think one thing though that sets the Asylum apart from some of these others is that they are willing to take it. And I do have to say, I give them a lot of credit for that. And they say, we've got these people who really haven't done anything before. Whereas, in a large feature production studio, it's like you have to have the background, you have to have the credentials, you have to do this, you have to do that, and check all these boxes off before we'll trust you enough to try something. And the Asylum is a little bit more like, do you believe in yourself? Do you believe in this project? Do you think you can do this? And they say yes. And they say, all right, well, let's see it. So, I think in many ways that is part of what makes the Asylum's projects so interesting, because they give people who haven't really had a chance yet, and you can see that coming through. People are like, yeah, this is my shot. I'm not going to screw this up.
I'm just happy that you confirmed Zombies too. That's all I was wanting to say before.
So John excited. And I were discussing that before the show, and it was pretty obvious. It was pretty obvious from the but Zombies 2 is definitely coming out, so we'll have to reserve our
yes
our spaces for that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to it.
We'll see what happens with the koalas.
So I have a question for you. Oh God, let's not mention the koalas.
Don't mention the koala scene.
I've never seen a child that has been so smart, wise beyond her years, and to the back. I wasn't expecting that. I was not expecting that at all. But she impressed me. I was like, oh my God, she, you think she's helpless, you think she's whatever.
Don't ruin it. Not everybody's seen it. Hashtag no spoilers.
We'll cut that part out.
Hashtag
no sorry.
Resident spoiler alert.
I'm sorry. We'll cut that part out. Oh my God. But anyway, yes. If anybody deserved the Oscar, it was her. That's all I was gonna say.
Just know that a lot of people die. That's all.
A lot of people. That makes it fun though. I did have a question. So what would you, okay, and this might be hard for you to answer, but just try your best on this one. What would you say has been your favorite movie work that you worked on with Asylum so far?
Sharknado 3. Sharknado 3 was a combination of the best/worst experience I think I've ever had on a film. The first half of the project was amazing. I go back to the whole kind of thing I was saying with the shield where you end up as a family. And we were really a family the first 2 or 3 weeks of that shoot. We went all over the country together. We went to Florida and shot down there at Universal Studios. We did some work around the area. And then came back to LA and we're working there. And then there was a strike. And it shut production down for a few days while we were trying to figure out everything that was going on. And that was hard because, like I said, you were a family. And there was definitely a sense of betrayal because there were some people that we were working with that kind of turned around and said some really not great things about different people. And I don't want to get into that too much. So let me go back and that was the rough part. But the first half of that was freaking amazing. It was amazing. I keep saying magical, but really working in the film industry is a little bit magical. We went down to Florida. We got the park to ourselves. We got a full run of things. They just kind of basically turned everything over to us and said, all right, well, just don't break anything. We got to do Harry Potter. We got to go run around the park at night when things were shut off. We had people from the staff that were so eager to come and hang out with us and talk to us about what we were doing, and we were excited to talk to them. Oh my God, we had catering. Oh, let me tell you. So obviously, I love food. I should be 5,000 pounds. I should be huge with all that I eat. And so part of the best part of this entire experience when we were shooting down there in Universal Studios is that they had on-site catering, which was basically, it was just an extension of the studio, the theme park's catering. So once every single day, they would bring in the catering team and they would give us a theme meal from around the park. So one day we had Harry Potter Day. And they brought in all of these things, like we had meat pies and pasties and butterbeer and gilly water and all of this amazing food that you could find when you went over to the Harry Potter part of the park. And then the next day we had carnival food, and it would be from where they had like the rock and roller coasters and the high powered roller coasters. So we had like corn dogs and hot dogs and burgers and cotton candy and just so much crap. I'll be honest. When I eat what I want to eat, I am essentially an unsupervised 5-year-old. So,
wow. That is an awesome way to describe that.
I am an unsupervised 5-year-old with a credit card. And I'm like, hell yes, bring me the junk food. I will eat it all. So I think that was probably one of the absolute best experiences I've ever had. It's just the ability to go to this park, to hang out with people I really genuinely cared about. For God's sake, they let me bring my dog. It was awesome. I'm hanging out with people I really enjoyed, getting fed ridiculous amounts of junk food that was just absolutely delicious. We'd ride the roller coasters at lunch. We'd go to Harry Potter and go snag snacks between shots. It was awesome. It was so awesome. They put us up in this hotel just off the property of the park itself. And again, like I said, I had Lucifer with me. And by the time we were there for 2 or 3 days, everybody in the hotel knew who we were. There was a Starbucks on the site, and I'd walk down in the morning and they would have a puppuccino sitting out for her ready to go already. It was amazing. It was truly amazing. I loved that. That was the best.
That is awesome.
I think of my entire film.
I can tell. The food thing, the food part is where I was like, wow. I know how eating on set. I have a couple of friends that actually work in the film industry down here, and they've told me before about how when they get the catered lunches and how like everybody's eating so well.
Because Atlanta's got a great film community. You could get that headset and walk on to different movie sets and be like, oh yeah, no, I'm just here for the lunch catering.
See, so now I'm going to change my plan from earlier going to Six Flags and just walk.
Yeah, don't go to Six Flags. Go to a movie set and be like, yeah, I'm here for lunch.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I'm going to do. But now that we've been talking about food again, I wanted to go back and ask, what do you have coming up, I guess, new for your Eat the Dead site? Let's you have any new recipes coming up for the new year?
Yeah. Oh God, I'm so excited. So for Valentine's Day, I made worms because for us single people, the song is "Nobody likes me, everybody hates me. I'm going to eat some worms." So all of my friends who are in the food and blogging world decided for Valentine's Day they would do romantic things, like heart cupcakes and sweet Alfredo meals for the love of your life. And I was like, screw that. Can I swear?
Too late now. It's too late now.
All right.
Oh, man.
Screw that. I'm going to go and continue on with the great tradition of the nom and just do something absolutely disgusting. So I've been wanting to make a worm-based meal. And we obviously don't really want to eat worms. I don't see a lot of people lining up for that one. So I thought, okay, I need to make an alternative worm. And there are a lot of great recipes online for gelatin worms. You take your straws and you mix up your gelatin and you pour it into the straws and you can squish these things up and look pretty convincingly like worms. But the problem is those don't hold up well to heat. They'll melt. And so I wanted something where I could make basically kind of like a spaghetti, but use the worms. So I started doing some research and I love boba tea. Have you guys ever had boba tea with the little...
Oh, boba tea is the stuff. I love it. Oh my God. Yes.
I love boba tea. And I found a recipe for homemade boba balls. And I started playing around with it. And I was like, God, I wonder what would happen if instead of making them sweet, you made them savory. So I swapped out a couple of the ingredients and ended up with these savory boba balls. And I was like, all right, these are pretty decent. I'm enjoying this. I wonder if I could make them into worms. So we turned them into worms and rolled them out and made actual savory, basically rice noodle worm, because that's really, when you're making certain kinds of boba, it's a combination of tapioca starch and a little bit of rice starch, so you get this really nice kind of chewy texture. And ended up making these tapioca / rice worm noodles, and I've been having such a good time with that. I'm like, what else can I make out of this? So now I've got so many plans. In fact, I have a notebook that is just stuffed full of ideas, and I've got some fun ideas down the line using the same kind of techniques for other recipes, including I really want to do a brain. I really want to do not just a gelatin brain, like you see the gelatin brains that people have every year for Halloween. It's like, it's a panna cotta brain with raspberry sauce. No, I want this thing to be awesome. Savory. So we'll see if we can pull it off. That's the best part, is coming up with the ideas, and then you actually have to try to see if it works. We don't always succeed.
Right.
But it's fun to try.
I guess probably half the fun is trying to the part of actually trying to make it and failing, and then trying it again and actually getting there. And yeah, you're right. Not just having the same old flavor, like, oh, it's a gelatin mold. No, you want it to be different, like maybe a meatloaf brain. That's exactly where we're taking it. Yes. What I want to do is do a meatloaf interior and have the exterior be the kind of the not worms, because I don't need to wrap the brain in worms, but the same kind of noodle texture. So when you look at it, you've actually got the folds and the different crenellations that an actual human brain has. And you cut into it and there's meat inside of it. And I think that's just going to be so disgusting, and it's going to be awesome.
For sure.
We need to throw a party. Okay.
Yes.
All right. And speaking about throwing a party. So, Ty and I, and all of us, we have a big project we like to share with everybody.
Yes,
where we're going to be teaming up to do, or we're calling it Movies Munchie and Movie Night, and we're going to be sharing a neat financial hack that save you between maybe $50 and $100 a month. We're going to be doing an awesome movie review, and then Ty is going to make a themed recipe to go along with that movie and the financial hack. So the idea is kind of, hey, here's a nice movie night / date night that you can enjoy, and a theme you can put together. And here's a quick financial tip to help pay for it all.
Yes, and I am so excited. I am so excited about this.
We're very excited too, because it goes hand in hand. Everybody wants to save some money on a date night or a movie night, and I mean, who wouldn't want to have some of these, recipes or munchies that are so creative? I mean, you don't want to eat the same thing all the time on these date nights. And we get to explore some great movies. It's going to be It's just a win-win-win situation, isn't it?
It is, definitely.
Yeah, we've been looking forward to it too. We've been, talking about it for a couple weeks now and laying out all the kind of details. And I think it's going to be cool. And we're really excited because Asylum has been really supportive of me and my blog. I've interviewed a lot of the people on our, from Asylum on our website. They've been great to us, and they provided us all kinds of really cool swag. So we're going to be able to, have really cool contests and giveaways where we're going to give people cool, movie swag and cool merchandise. And there's going to be, we're going to do a Nailed It meme contest where people can attempt to make these crazy creations and post their results on Instagram and Twitter and tag us. And we'll choose the best or the worst or the funniest. And those people win cool movie swag.
Do we get to enter that too? Not to win, but I mean, can we enter pictures of how we tried to make some of this?
I'm going to put some pictures up. I'm going to put some pictures up, but that might be cheating if I attempt to make these things and it's a Nailed It meme because I am not artistic at all, but I'm going to try.
Well, I'm excited. In fact, it's interesting because I'm sitting here as I'm doing this interview with you guys, and I have a whole stack of the recipe ingredients that I picked up yesterday. Today is my baking and cooking day. And I am actually excited. I mean, not that I want to wrap up this interview because I'm having a lot of fun with you guys, but as soon as we get off the phone here, I'm actually starting to work on getting that recipe ready for our first group project. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, awesome. So stay tuned. If you're listening to this podcast, stay tuned. We hope to have our first episode of Money Munchies and Movie Night. We're hoping to have that out next Friday, and we'll be announcing a lot of cool contests.
Oh, absolutely. We want to thank Ty from eatthedead.com for joining us today, and we will have all the links to her site and her social media. And again, you can get all the noms over her website and learn how to do everything she does yourself. Hopefully just as good. You can put it up on the Nailed It contest that we have.
To see all that.
But again, we want to thank. Oh, we definitely want to see all that. Trust me, we definitely want to see all that. And I'm sure there's going to be some great ones too. Don't get me wrong. But we will definitely have all of the links, all of her links, all the links to the new segment that we're going to have and all the details. We're going to have that in the show notes so you won't miss anything. And again, we'd like to thank Ty for coming out and spending her time and
thank you guys so much. This has been so much fun. And Lucy is actually sitting next to me, and she's wagging her nubbin and saying, thank you guys.
Thank you, Lucy. Thank you. Oh, man.
Oh, we appreciate Lucy coming out today, too. She's awesome.
So thank you, guys. What a wonderful afternoon. I really appreciate it.
Well, I would like to thank our sponsor, JRC Insurance Group. JRC works with over 50 top-rated insurance companies to match their clients with the most affordable life insurance options available. They are working harder than anyone to get you the coverage you need and deserve for the price that suits your budget. Call 866-790-6494 or visit jrcinsurancegroup.com for your free, no-obligation quote. Again, call 866-790-6494 or visit jrcinsurancegroup.com for your free, no-obligation quote.